In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum viewers. I am Musaddiq Farooq, Assistant Professor of English in Higher Education Department of Government of the Punjab. As you know that I have started a lecture series which is specially designed for those people who intend to appear in the exams for the post of lectureship in English, regardless of whether the posts are advertised by Punjab Public Service Commission or Federal Public Service Commission. There is little difference between the preparation for both papers that are given by PPSC or FPSC. This is the second lecture of this series, but practically it is lecture number 1 because the first lecture was basically just introduction to our topic. Dear viewers, there could have been many ways to proceed in this preparation series, but I have decided to choose the one that is most suitable according to my opinion. I am of the view that sound knowledge of the ages in literature enables a student in a better way to understand the general literary trends that were in vogue at different times. So I am going to start with the Anglo-Saxon age. Anglo-Saxon age is also called Old English period. It starts somewhere in the 5th century Anno Domini and continues to the Norman conquest in 1066 AD. What I am going to do in this lecture and also in upcoming lectures is that I shall make some multiple choice questions, exactly what you are going to find in your paper. And the number of those questions can vary in every lecture. In this lecture, I am going to present 25 multiple choice questions that will be from this Anglo-Saxon age or Old English period. As you know that in your paper, you will have time allowed for the period of 2 hours, and there will be total 100 questions that you are supposed to attempt. And in this way, we can say that for every question, you are going to have 72 seconds. Okay, more than 1 minute. On paper, it seems that this is a lot of time, but sometimes you find that this time is not sufficient. You will definitely find some questions which will confuse you, and you will feel a hard time to answer them. And that is very why I told you in my introductory lecture that you must go through all the paper and fill the answers of those questions about which you are more than 100% sure, about which you do not have any doubt. And if you find that those answers are 50 to 60, most probably 60, then I advise you not to attempt anything. But it is only in the case in which you are 100% sure that about 60 questions are correct, because attempting wrong answers will definitely give you no advantage. Rather, it will snatch some marks from the marks that you have already earned. Keeping in view the available time in your paper, I should give you exactly the same time for every question, but since this is just rehearsal, this is just for the sake of practice, and I do not want to just prolong my video unnecessarily, that's why you can pause the video and have as much time as possible. In general, I'm going to let you have about 30 seconds for every screen. On every screen, you will find 2 questions invariably, right? For the 2 questions, you will have 30 seconds time, and if you feel that you want to have more time, you can pause the video and answer it according to your convenience. Read the complete question carefully, do not jump to conclusion, and also read all the given options, right? If you feel that first option is correct, even then you must read all the other 3 options, because it might happen that first option that you have chosen is the second best. You have to choose the best answer. Somewhere in some questions, although not in all questions. Some questions may present more than one seemingly apparently correct options, but you have to choose the best option. That is why it is advisable for you, for all the candidates, to read the questions carefully, read all the options, and then after suitable sufficient reflection, choose your answer. Right, now I'm going to stop speaking, and your time is going to start now. Alright students, after going through all the given questions, now it is time to discuss them one by one. The first question, before starting discussion of the questions, I would like to clarify one thing. Although I have made 25 multiple choice questions for this lecture, I could have made many more from the same material that is going to be presented before you in the whole lecture. In many questions you will find that some information has already been provided and the other information is being asked for. So if you go through all this lecture, you will find much more information as is supposed to be got from 25 MCQs. So the question number 1 was Angles, Geats and Saxons, commonly referred to as Anglo-Saxons, came to Britain in which year? Although it might seem to you that this question pertains to history and not history of English literature, but there are many questions. If you go through the past papers, I will try to bring before you the past papers in some other lecture. You will find that there are many questions that are asked about specifically the ages that you are related to. The question is related to that you have prepared. Now this question is definitely a very important question as far as your paper is concerned, because Anglo-Saxons are some ones that are highly influential as far as the history of English literature and language is concerned. The first option was earlier 4th century Anno Domini. This is not the right answer. Middle of the 2nd century BC, this is not as well. Later part of the 5th century AD, this is definitely the right answer, because there are not much to be discussed here. Option C is the correct option for this question. So we have decided that neither option alpha nor beta, rather it is option Charlie that is correct for this question. So they came, Anglo-Saxons, Angles, Geats and Saxons, that are commonly referred to as Anglo-Saxons, came to Britain. Now Britain is also different from England. Britain contains England, Wales, Scotland and now Northern Ireland only, but previously the whole of the state of Ireland was under British rule. They came to Britain in 5th century AD. Not exactly do we know that what was the year, but it is said that it was somewhere in the middle of that century, middle or the later part of the century. Okay, which of the following form of literature is most emblematic, typical? I have also tried to make the vocabulary somewhat heavier in order to prepare you for the paper. Emblematic means typical, right? Typical of the Germanic origins of Anglo-Saxons. Religious poetry, although there is a lot of religious poetry in Anglo-Saxon literature that we find, but it's not exactly religious poetry that Anglo-Saxon age is known for. Ecclesiastical drama. Now drama is not the genre that was popular in that age. So this is not again a right answer. Heroic poetry. Yes, this is exactly the form of literature that was common in that age. Reflective prose. Reflective means philosophical, in which there is a lot of thinking involved. So heroic poetry is the right answer. Just in order to clear the point, heroic poetry is a poetry in which the adventures and the situations in which bravery and courage is involved is celebrated and mentioned in detail. And the third question was, which of the following does not describe Anglo-Saxon poetry correctly? Now there is some technical information involved here. The poetry is alliterative. What is alliteration? The repetition of the same sounds. And the sounds that are repeated are usually but not always consonant sounds. For example, the same singer sang all the songs, right? The repetition of S sound. You can listen it again if you have missed the point. The same singer sang all the songs. So repetition of S sound. This is alliteration. And in this way we have also prepared a figure of speech here, alliteration. Right, the second option was, it does not have rhymes. Rhymes mean the words that sound similarly. There are 4 stressed syllables in every line. Now what exactly is a syllable? It can be defined in many ways. For example, one definition says that it is one chest impulse. The best way to teach syllables to younger kids, students, is to clap while pronouncing the word. And exactly technically, one vowel sound with optional consonant clusters in the beginning and at the end is called a syllable. We will probably come to this when we will have linguistics in our hand to discuss. So leave it here as it is. Stressed syllables in every line. There are 3 unstressed syllables in every line. Now, which option according to you was the right one? If it was alpha, the poetry is alliterative, right? We have to find that does not describe Anglo-Saxon poetry correctly. The poetry is alliterative. Does it have the repetition of the same sounds? Yes. It means that this option was not correct. It does describe. It is not that it does not describe. It does describe the Anglo-Saxon poetry clearly. Read the question carefully. We have to choose the option that does not describe Anglo-Saxon poetry correctly. So alliteration was definitely there. And it does not have rhymes. This is also correct as far as Anglo-Saxon poetry is concerned. So this cannot be the right option as well either. There are 4 stressed syllables in every line. This is also true. So this cannot be the right option. The right option is definitely the last one. There are unstressed syllables in every line, but the number of those unstressed syllables are definitely not determined. How many of them will be in every line? This was not fixed. So option delta, D option, last option, does not describe Anglo-Saxon poetry correctly. Come to the next question. How much of Anglo-Saxon poetry has survived to the day? Now, this does not again need much explanation. If you chose 12,000 lines approximately, this answer was not correct. 18,000 lines, incorrect. 30,000 lines, correct. 50,000 lines, not correct. So about 30,000 lines, about approximately. It is a guess definitely. It's not exactly the right idea. Next question was, how many Anglo-Saxon manuscripts are extant? Extant is exactly the opposite of extinct. Extinct is something that has been wiped out from the face of the earth, that does not exist anymore. Extant is something that still survives, that is still present. So how many manuscripts are still there that we can still have our hands on? Now 4, 8, 10 or 15. If you chose 4, You were definitely correct. All the other options are, of course, incorrect. There are 4 manuscripts that are still present and can be found in Britain on different places. They are not exactly at the same place though. The next question says, in 597 Anno Domini, which of the following incidents triggered? Triggered means motivated, inspired, urged the Christianization of the English people. If you chose the arrival of Augustine in Kent, you were correct. All the other options are definitely incorrect. Gregory the Great was a king, and he did not have anything to do with the missionary tasks like propagating Christianity, etc. Discovery of Gospels by a team of researchers. Now, the age about which we are talking is not exactly the age that is known for research work or researchers. It is mainly known as Dark Age, right? Dark Age, because it does not have anything to do with education and research. So even on the face value, this option must be rejected altogether. This is not a correct option because there was no research at all in that time. Translation of Bible into Old English. Now this took place much later, somewhere in the 15th century, in the later part of the 15th century, exactly at the end of the 15th century, by John Wycliffe. Translation of Bible into Old English? No, it is not the right option. 7th question was, which of the following incident in 632 AD put a hiatus? What is hiatus? Hiatus is a pause, break to the progress of Christianity in Britain. Now Christianity was making a lot of progress in Britain, but what was the incident that put a break to this progress? What was the incident? If you chose the death of Gregory the Great, no, it was not the correct option. If you opted for the second option, option beta, the defeat and the death of Christian Edwin, king of Northumbria. Now this is exactly the answer that you should have chosen, because this is the correct option. Christianity took its start from Northumbria in Britain. So the death of that king, of course, put a huge break in the progress of Christianity in Britain. Fresh attacks by Vikings from the north. It was definitely not the case as far as Christianity is concerned. It is not correct option. The war with Normandy. Again, this took place a lot later. The most famous work of Anglo-Saxon era, Beowulf, it is the name of an epic, is a part of which of the following manuscripts? We have seen that there are 4 of them, right, that are still there in different places in Britain. Manuscript Cotton, Vitellus. Is it the correct option? Yes, it is. Manuscript Cotton, Vitellus contains Beowulf. All the other options are incorrect, although all the other 3 options are also genuine names of manuscripts that are still present, that still survive. The next question was, famous heroic poetry of Old English language was commonly recited by an itinerant minstrel. Itinerant, what does it mean? It means that any person who moves from place to place, performs something and gets his honor and rewards, gifts, and moves away. Minstrel is anybody who recites any song or any other thing, who frequently visited the halls of kings and chiefs. What was such minstrel called? Terms. What was the term that was used for that reciter? Scop is the right option. Bard also means poet, but here it is not a correct choice for us. Signor is a French word that is used for Mr. Gerendal. It's actually the name of that monster that will be introduced later on in this poem. One of the earliest surviving Anglo-Saxon poem, you have to name the poem now, is an autobiographical record of such itinerant minstrel. The Wanderer and Seafarer, although these 2 poems are also very famous Old English poems, but the correct option here is Wordsworth. Epic of Gilgamesh is a very ancient poem. It is actually the first epic ever written, or even it is not confirmed whether it was written or not written. It is also an opinion of the critics that it was just an oral epic. It was written or composed by somebody who was there in Mesopotamian civilization on the banks of Tigris and Euphrates, uh, some 4000 to 4500 before Christ. The next question is, which of the following is not strong point of Beowulf, an Old English epic? Now, if any option is a strong point, it cannot be the correct choice, as is the case with the first alpha choice. Technically impressive in handling of narrative words, it was definitely technically impressive. Successful amalgamation means combination of heroic idealism and somber fatalism. Somber means serious. Fatalism means belief and obsession with the idea of death, uncertainty of life. Now, definitely the combination of these two things, heroic idealism and somber fatalism, was successful. It is pioneer in using novel poetic devices to some extent, yes, so again the option is not correct for us. Artistic rendering of Homeric simile. Now, this option definitely is most certain that it has nothing to do with that poem, so definitely it is the correct option. The grandeur and splendor of Beowulf is somewhat marred, destroyed by what? Now you have to bring out the weak point due to which the poem can be criticized severely. Disunity of tone and digressions. Yes, it is a correct choice. Anachronism. What is it? Anachronism means putting anything out of place. For example, we are talking about Ottoman Empire, but the picturization of that story shows some telephone lines, electricity lines, or even aeroplanes. That it means that the setting has not been depicted correctly. Anachronism, anything out of time. Violation of medias res. You might know what is medias res. It is an important tradition in epic poetry. It is said that the epic poet usually starts his writing in the middle of the action, and what about the beginning of the action? That is usually told by using flashback technique. Excessive humor, again it is incorrect option. Beowulf was most probably written in first half of what now it is a very debatable point, but most critics agree that it was somewhere in the 18th century. Next question, Beowulf has two main parts. In the first one, Beowulf visits which of the following character? King Hrothgar of Denmark is correct option. Fire-spitting dragon, of course, no sane person, no sensible person will visit a dragon. King Hygelac of the Geats. Now, Beowulf himself, who is the hero of the epic Beowulf, was among the Geats. The Geats were the persons who lived in Sweden, somewhere in Sweden, and Beowulf himself was the Geats, so it is highly unlikely that he would visit any other Geat. Ramayana of India, of course, it is just filling of the fourth spot, nothing else. What is the relation between Beowulf and King Hygelac of the Geats? It is said that he was nephew of that king. The king of Denmark is plagued by cannibal monster. Cannibal means any monster that eats human beings. Durendal. Which of the following halls does the monster visit for praise? Victims. Pandemonium, it is said that this word was invented by John Milton in Paradise Lost at the end of book 1, and he says that that was the capital of the hell and it was constructed by the followers of Satan. Hall of Heorot. Definitely this is the correct option. Hall of the Saint, and none of these, of course, not correct choices. When the second part of the Beowulf starts, 50 years have passed since the events depicted in the first part. Which of the following post does Beowulf hold in the second part? The king of Geats. We have already discussed that Beowulf was among the Geats. He was one of them, and 50 years later he becomes their king. The king of the Danes and the king of the Denmark convey the same sense because the people who live in Denmark are called Danes. And if two or more options in the given options are similar, it means both of them are correct or incorrect. Most probably incorrect. If both of them are correct, then you will search for an option that accommodates both of them. For example, in a case where just Charlie and Beta both are correct, you will search for an option that says both C and B. Otherwise, in isolation, they cannot be correct. They will be correct in combination. The Duke of Wellington again was not correct option. Against whom does Beowulf fight in the second part of the epic? Dragon? Yes, this is the option. Beat option is Caliban. Caliban is a character in The Tempest, written by William Shakespeare. If you have read that play, you would have an idea of that character. That character stirred a lot of controversy about nature and nurture. Sphinx. This is a part of the Oedipus legend. Legend means that story that originated, that was basically the origin of Oedipus Rex. It is said that Sphinx occupied the gate of Thebes city, and whoever wanted to enter that city needed to answer the riddle that was asked by Sphinx, and if the person did not answer that riddle, he was killed at the spot, and if the answer was correct, then the Sphinx killed itself. And Oedipus was the person who answered that riddle, and since he helped the people of Thebes get rid of that monster, he was made the king of that city. Now Sisyphus, it is said that in Greek mythology he was the king. He was a king somewhere, and he was punished by some gods, and it is said that the punishment was that he had to push up a huge rock to the top of the hill, and when he reached there at the top of the hill, that rock used to roll down again, and he had to do it again and again, and it is said that he will do it forever, for eternity. What is the result of the fight between Beowulf and the dragon? The dragon is killed. Yes, correct option. Beowulf is mortally wounded. Yes, correct option. But I have told you that if two options are correct, you will search for the option that accommodates both of them. Both A and B. Yes, this is exactly the correct option, because in isolation, alpha and beta cannot be correct, deemed as correct. The epic ends with an account of Beowulf's funeral. Yes, there's nothing to discuss here. Now 21st question is an example of there might be some questions that might confuse you because of their length, and if you feel that the situation that is presented by that question is quite familiar to you, then, and you are also quite easy, feel that you are easy to answer that, you can do that in your first round. Otherwise you can leave that question, that lengthy question, for your second round. I told you in my introductory lecture that you must answer only those questions in your first round about which you are 100% sure, and the questions about which you have a little doubt in your mind should be left for the second round. This great English poem has the following striking qualities. First, you have to read the whole question. This is the complete question, except for the last line where the four options are given. The whole screen occupies the question. The grave courtesy with which men of rank are received and dismissed, the generosity of rulers and fidelity of retainers, the thirst for fame through the deeds of courage and bravery, the solemn boasting of warriors before and after performance, the interest in genealogies and pride in noble heredity. And now, keeping in view the mentioned qualities, which of the following epic does Beowulf resemble? It is this epic. It means it is similar to some other epic, and that epic is also very famous, to which it resembles. Iliad and Odyssey both are written by Homer, who is an ancient Greek poet, but Odyssey is exactly the answer. Aeneid was written by Virgil, who is a Latin poet, and Paradise Lost, of course, it is written by John Milton. Which theme does Dior, an interesting poem of 42 lines, handle? Dior is a poem. It contains 42 lines. What is the theme of the poem? The complaint of minstrel? Yes. Praise of the kings, morality of society, account of warriors, heroics have nothing to do with our answer. Bede, who lived from 673 to 735 AD, is the author of which of the following? Ecclesiastical history of the English people. Now, if you are habitual of reading different books on history of English literature, you might be familiar with this work, because it is a very famous book as far as Old English is concerned, and it's the correct option. Other options are not correct. Last slide, last two questions. Who, according to Bede, received the gift of song miraculously in the monastery of abbess Hilda of Whitby? Whitby is a place where there was an abbey, and the head of that abbey was abbess, synonym. There was a monastery, and that monastery was headed by abbess Hilda of Whitby. Abbey is a male head of some monastery, and abbess is female head of that same place. Now Cadmon was the person who received that gift of song at that place. The vocabulary of praise applied by the pagan Scops. Pagan means the person who does not have anything to do with religion. They worship their own gods. I mean, those gods might be incarnations of some other deities, but they do not have any revealed religions with them. Scops, we have already discussed that it was the term that was used for the people who used to recite songs to the different audience. To their lords was later applied by the Christian bards to the praise of God. Yes, this is the correct option. Now this is the end of the lecture, and if you have any ambiguity and any confusion, any suggestion, if you have any suggestion that this preparation series should be proceeded in some other way, you can put that suggestion in the comment section on my YouTube channel after the end of this lecture, or you can contact me on Facebook. Okay, till the next lecture, goodbye, take care.